donations. We are a nonprofit. Sean and I do not receive any sort of salary. So between our sponsors and then our individual donations, that takes care of all our costs. And those costs include the website. We have a website manager. And we have business expenses like any other business. Liability insurance is unbelievable how much that costs because we go and talk to the schools. And then the number one thing is the commercial weather subscriptions that we're able to get, because now we're able to share that information with you without infringing on any copyright status. So we get the commercial sort of version, and we're able to get a lot more information than Sean can really geek out. So, why Pagosa weather? All of you know, you live here in Pagosa, you know that National Weather Service does a good job given the fact that they cover all of eastern Utah, all of western Colorado, and the I-70 corridor. So when the weather is really hitting the fan, so to say, that really impacts the support that we get down here in southwest Colorado. They more or less lump Pagosa in with Durango. And we all know, all you have to do is look at the flora, and our weather is very much different than Durango. So, in walks your Pagosa weather team. Sean and I have been doing Pagosa weather since 2019 now, and we were aviation weather forecasters. We have 44 years between the two of us doing aviation weather forecasting in the Air Force. We are also the Archuleta County Cocoa Ross coordinators for National Weather Service. And I know we have at least one Cocoa Ross observer with us, Mr. Chuck Green. Do we have any other Cocoa Ross observers with us? Okay. And we're also the Archuleta County Weather Ready Nation ambassadors for National Weather Service. We're members of American Meteorological Society, and we're also members of the Pagosa Chamber of Commerce. So now we're going to start talking about weather. Today we're going to go through a little bit of 8th grade science. Those of you that have been to my talks before know that we have to go back to 8th grade, go over a little bit of earth science. And we're going to talk about the abysmal winter, just touch on that real quickly. And then we're going to talk about the monsoon, what makes up the monsoon, and what we can expect this year as far as the monsoon goes. So starting out with some earth science, we are under the Ferrel cell. So we're under the Ferrel cell here in the middle. The northern hemisphere is comprised of 3 different main cells. And if we look at it vertically, the polar cell is up here, and it is the shallowest because it's normally much colder air, so it's the shallowest air mass. The Ferrel cell is here in the middle. That's what we are normally under. And our winds normally are out of the west-northwest. And you can see that the polar front jet divides between the polar cell and the Ferrel cell. Then there's the Hadley cell. And the Hadley cell covers the tropics and the subtropics, and in between is the subtropical jet in between those 2 cells. Well, during the summer, when our subtropical ridge sets up, monsoon means a switch in winds. So rather than being under those westerly, northwesterly winds, we switch with the winds coming more out of the south, southeast. The polar front jet during the winter is normally across the United States. Sometimes the trough might be down over California and then bubbling up into the northeast, but its position is more to the south. During the summer, it migrates north. When you think about the tornadoes we always hear about, starting the end of March, beginning of April, you start hearing about tornado activity down in Alabama, Louisiana, those sorts of places. That's that subpolar front jet regenerating and starting to migrate north. And now, most recently, we were hearing about tornado activity in Illinois. So that's telling you that that polar front jet has moved more north. So the building block for weather are our air masses. Does anybody know what is our favorite air masses to combine for making good snow here? Okay.
One you want moisture, and the other one you do want some cold temperatures.
You want
right?
cold temperatures. So
One's
during
maritime, yeah, that one.
that one, Margaret? Okay. So the maritime polar and the continental polar, when those two get together, they're going to make snow because you have a cold, dry air mass combining with a moist, cool air mass. Now, the one thing we don't want to see during the winter that we sometimes see is the maritime tropical air mass coming in with what they call atmospheric river events or the Pineapple Express. Well, that's bringing in warm air. And if we want really good snow, we want it to be cooler air. So during the winter, we don't want to see that, but then during the summer, this maritime tropical air mass is what's responsible for our monsoon. And when it interacts with the continental tropical, the really hot, dry air, then you're going to get those thunderstorms building up that are responsible for a lot of our moisture. So when the air masses move out of their home areas and they're starting to follow the contours of either polar front jet or the subtropical jet, then you end up with what you see on the weather news. Not that you would see anything about Pagosa on your 5 o'clock weather news. So you get the areas of low pressure and the areas of high pressure forming up, and those are all just dividers between these different air masses. So quick reflection back on the abysmal winter of 25-26. Because of the data here in the Pagosa area and up on Wolf Creek, our historical data has a whole bunch of holes in it. So the ski patrol folks up there shared the data with me that goes back to 1976. And so I use that data because it's good, consistent data. You will find when we compare that data to the Wolf Creek Pass data that they stopped doing in 2001. It used to be where the highway building is now.
Yeah, the transportation shed area.
Yeah, so somebody lived up there and would measure the snow every morning, unless they booked out of here for the winter. And as you look through the data, there's all these asterisks, gone for 30 days in the month of February. Well, that's what we want the snow data kept. So there's inconsistencies there. So when I talk about Wolf Creek data, I stick with the ski patrol data.